pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Will you call the roll, please?
Hudson.
Here.
District 1 Morset.
Here.
District 2 Yakub. Here. District 3 Bernard. Here. District 4 Weiland.
Here.
District 5 O'Malley.
Here.
District 6 Burchell.
Here.
At this time, we take comments and suggestions from citizens present. If there's anyone here who'd like to address the council tonight about any item that is not listed on the meeting agenda, but that might have an impact on the city of Hudson or come before the council at a future meeting, this is your chance. Come on forward.
Once again, Gordon Kennard, 36 Eagles Nest Circle, Hudson. The topic I'm going to talk about won't be a surprise to you. It has to do with filling the vacancy of our mayor who is resigning, going to Madison. It's for the benefit of the viewing audience, but also to reinforce things that I have conveyed to the council. I'm pleased that Mayor Dean has moved ahead with fixing his resignation so that the process can move ahead. I'm very happy that our city attorney has clearly laid out the options, the rules under law. And we have a meeting on the calendar for 1 week from today, 8 o'clock in the morning next Monday. Important meeting that I hope that the council will be able to move forward with coming to a conclusion on Monday. I think timely action is very important, and the stage is set to move ahead promptly. I've considered as many factors as I can think of and have garnered up by talking to other people and kind of boil it down into three main issues. We've got how do you fill the void or fill the vacancy, the timetable, and what temporary action will be, and they all kind of interplay. How to move forward initially. Actually, fundamentally, I feel very strongly this is an overriding thing that you put the selection of our next mayor in the hands of the voters just as soon as possible. And in that regard, the earliest possible time would be spring election, which would be a special election for mayor. It would not incur hardly any additional cost. It would be the most timely way to recognize the electorate in Hudson and consider them, and I guess it's a respectful thing to do for the voters. For myself, I want to have a say in this. I have one vote, and I'd like to do it at the earliest opportune. So, my points. I think to delay it until the regular election, which would be something like 17 or 18 months from now, and take action to fill that gap for such a long period of time, puts off something that the voters ought to decide. It can be a short period of time, like 4 months, if you move ahead in spring. Sorry to be repetitive there. The temporary action, though, and you've heard my thoughts on this. I believe that the best way to move forward, if you can find the person to do it, is a caretaker mayor. And by definition, a caretaker, I mean somebody that can do the job, can run the meetings, doesn't have an interest in being a mayor on the long time, not a council member. Any one of you could have aspirations to run, or more of you, for mayor. And I would like to encourage you to not have somebody in that seat who would have an interest in running for mayor for, I think, obvious reasons, one of them being it does give a bump or an incumbent benefit, in my opinion. So a caretaker mayor. So logically, who could that be? I mean, there are some names that you could mention. You can think about in general terms. We have past mayors. They've done the job. I don't know if they would be willing to do it, but they could fill in and do the job, keep the boat ashore, run the meetings, and take care of the administrative duties. It's clearly conceivable that none of our past mayors would do this. Then my recommendation would be to follow the rules of the council and have the president of the council act as mayor in the interim until spring election. And that way you would keep the 6 of you in your seats representing your districts. You would each have your vote unless the president were to opt for mayor veto. But I think that keeping you as a intact council, you work well together, you discuss hard and strong, but then you come to a consensus. So those are my opinions. These are my thoughts, and I have formulated them into a letter to the editor, which I had hoped would have appeared last week in the paper, but through a little hiccup, it won't appear until this Thursday or Wednesday if you pick up the paper. But you can read it there. I share these comments, particularly with the audience, that if you agree with me, let your council members know. If you have different ideas, please let them know. But please think about this, and if you will, give your considerations to the council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council tonight? Yes, sir. Will you give your name and address, please?
Chief Jensen, Hudson Police Department, 101 Vine Street in the city of Hudson. Mr. Mayor and City Council, I just wanted to inform you very quickly of a competition that's going to be coming up on December 3rd involving the public safety entities here in the city of Hudson. On December 3rd, between 3 and 7 o'clock, the Hudson Fire Department, the Hudson Police Department, and St. Croix EMS are going to have a bell ringing competition for the Salvation Army. We're going to be located at Fleet Farm, County Market, and Papa Murphy's, and we're going to be ringing the bells to raise money for the Salvation Army. The 3 chiefs, Chief Fry and Chief Christensen and myself, have decided to have a little competition while we're doing this, so the losing chiefs will have to chip in a little bit more money into the coffers for the Salvation Army. This is all done. So we're just encouraging everybody to come out the Friday afternoon, especially come to Fleet Farm. That'll be the best place to come to. So I wanted to pass that along.
Equal time. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council tonight?
I just wanted everybody to know the fire department will be at the county market. Come visit us.
Okay, anyone else like to address some comments to the council tonight, make suggestions? Yes. Do you wish to step out of your chair and go, all right? Yes.
May I step up here?
Yes.
I'm so grateful for the large font. This is from the City of Hudson. It's an appreciation award to Dean Knudsen in grateful recognition of your faithful and meritorious public service and worthwhile contributions to the progress of municipal government as District 2 Alderperson, April 1996 to April 2002, and your term as mayor, April 2008 to November 2010. We greatly appreciate your service.
Thank you. That's very nice. Okay, let's move on to our consent agenda items, please. Will you read those? And there's one that I'm asking to be removed is about the fire contracts. We need to talk about those.
To approve the public hearing and regular meeting minutes of November 8th, 2010. To approve claims for payment in the amount of $501,022.83. A detailed description is available in the clerk's office on request and is posted on the city's website. To approve the issuance of 4 regular operators licenses for the period November 23rd, 2010 through June 30th, 2012. Additional information is available in the clerk's office on request. To approve the following appointments by the clerk for the annual 2011 election cycle. Douglas Torgerson as a special registration deputy. All previously appointed election inspectors from 2010-2011 to serve as special voting deputies for election-related duties at the Christian Community Home, and to appoint Tricia McGrath as a deputy election clerk in the clerk's office. To approve issuance of an amusement device owner's license to William Lethert, doing business as Mendota Valley Amusement Incorporated, and permits for 14 amusement devices. To approve removing the winter no parking restrictions on 6th Street between Myrtle and Vine and on the south side of Namakagon Street from Namakagon Loop to the corner. To place on file the quarterly reports of the city clerk and the water utility director and the Public Utility Commission minutes of November 9th, 2010, and the Joint Fire Board minutes of November 3rd, 2010. And that is all.
Move for approval.
All right, there's a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote?
Morset?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes.
Wyland?
Yes.
Burchell?
Yes.
Bernard?
Yes.
Yakub?
Yes.
Consent agenda items are approved, and we will move on to the item number 4 under Finance Committee, the proposed 2011 city budget, ordinance number 16-10. We held a public hearing tonight on this item. Finance Committee recommended approval of the ordinance as it was written, and I would recommend approval.
Move for approval. Oh, move to suspend the rules, sorry.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules. Any discussion? Roll call vote on the suspension.
Wyland?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes.
Morset?
Yes.
Yakub?
Yes.
Bernard?
Yes.
Burchell?
Yes.
Okay, now you can consider adoption of the ordinance.
Move to adopt ordinance 16-10.
There's a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance. Any discussion?
I do have some questions about a couple items.
Sure.
In the parks specifically, there were some items, little overlay items, the boat launch and the beach house. Were those in or out of the budget?
The capital outlay budget has not been determined at this
That's
time.
all I wanted to know. Thank you.
And under the short term, the only thing that we put in there was for the squad vehicles, and the remaining 40,000 is still up for discussion at some point.
Okay.
Either at a future meeting or next year.
Would you like to walk through some summary of it? You've got some.
I've got a summary packet here on the table, as opposed to the whole. There are some copies. I don't know if there's any specific questions. There's a proposed expenditure and revenue document summary. There was an increase in expenditures, but that was met with an increase in revenue. The valuation, the equalized valuation dropped substantially, about $113 million, but the assessed valuation went up slightly, so that allowed us to actually decrease the mill rate. We left the levy where it was last year within $100, and then we were able to decrease the mill rate slightly. It was at $4.02 last year. It's about $4 even this year.
Devon, page 1, you've got it undesignated 40,000 short term. What's that?
That's what I just mentioned. That's, will be determined at a future date. Those are for shorter term items like computers, park benches. We usually put out about 100,000, and that goes on to the tax roll. And then the remainder, the long-term items like large pieces of equipment or road construction, that is bonded for.
Okay.
These items are too short to be, they don't have a lifespan long enough to be bonded for. But they're bigger ticket items, so we put them under capital.
Thank you.
Then, as far as the mill rate, the only item we do not know yet is our school tax credit. Normally we have it by today, but we got an email from the state today saying that they may have it to us Wednesday, or it may be next Monday. That's the final piece of the, but I don't anticipate it'll be any less. So as of right now, there'll be about a 2-cent decrease per $1,000 evaluation in the overall mill rate as well. I think the reason for that is, it's kind of complicated, but our equalized valuation dropped more than the other within the school district and the county. So therefore, what we have to pay to the county dropped a little bit. So that's good news. So effectively the mill rate, I don't know what the lottery credit we also don't have. That can fluctuate from year to year, $60 to $80, so there might be a difference there. So bottom line is that the mill rate will not be going up, so the tax bill should be remaining. And that is, of course, if you haven't done anything to your house. I mean, if you've added value to your house, then your rate will go up. But I don't know if there's any specific questions on any of the revenue or expenditures that I can answer.
Any questions? We put this budget together fairly early. I mean, it was similar to last year, maybe even a little bit
About a month
before
early.
last year, about a month early, with the express purpose of letting there be time for it to sink in, so there's no surprises, gotcha. So essentially, this is unchanged since the Finance Committee made their recommendation, and we brought it forth to the council at that time, with the exception that we got better news on the health insurance,
Right.
and we
Our
chose...
valuation went up a little more than I thought it was, and that money was placed into the contingency.
Ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. And the budget is adopted for 2011. Next, we've got the notice of 2010 budget amendment. We considered this at the Finance Committee. Devin, why don't you tell about those changes?
We are required annually, if there are any changes to the budget that is approved the prior year, we need to publish a notification. The bulk of the changes we make to the budget are within department, so that it doesn't affect other departments. But an example this year, we did take some money out of the energy funds that were designated a few years ago and did a couple projects. The revenue went up down at the First Street building in comparison to what we had budgeted for the municipal building, but the expenditures went up. Those are the type of changes that appear in here. There is one correction at the bottom where it says increase, at the very bottom, that should be 98,138. The very bottom row under the increase, so it'll be the third column, bottom row. That should be 98,000. Thank you to Catherine and the mayor for catching that. And if there are any additional budget amendments to this that come forward, we will come back to the first meeting in January if anything happens between now and the end of the year to make sure that we get this, and this will be published in the paper once we're required to do that by state statute.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion on the budget amendments for last year's budget, this current year's budget? It's a housekeeping item. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. And the motion and the amendments are approved. Number 7 is from Chief Fry, the proposed fire department no fee agreement with the Wisconsin DNR. Chief Fry is here to answer any questions you have. He recommended approval of this change. The Finance Committee considered it. After some discussion, the Finance Committee also recommended the change. And Chief, you want to say anything more about it? Essentially what's happening is we would provide wildfire fire suppression services out at the state park when and if they happen. In our current agreement that we've had with them by contract since 1984, we would get to charge them $250 for that. They want to have a no-charge agreement, and in exchange they'll give us points on our grant applications with them.
That's what they're telling me, but like I said, it came from Mark Kubler of the Wisconsin DNR. We had talked probably last spring sometime, just in the round to getting trying to get final agreement on this. But no fee for service. This doesn't include, it doesn't preclude us from billing a responsible party or any of their buildings out there. This is strictly for the wildfire, their wild land, so to speak. Grass fires, brush fires, that type of thing.
Okay. We were told at Finance that there hasn't been a call in the last 9 years,
No, not for wildfires.
maybe longer.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, we have received grants from them often, almost annually. And so conceivably, we would get a bigger return here. I believe the vote at finance was 2-1. And that might have been generous. Any thoughts on this, Scott?
I move to approve the no-fee response to amendment or change to our DNR agreement.
Is there a second to the motion to approve?
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion?
Well,
Oh,
Oh, well, let's let Randy go first.
wait,
Go
what?
ahead.
You already know what she says, huh? Is this even necessary? I mean, I don't, we're signing up for something we don't know. You know, in the past, it's not been used, basically.
That's right.
We receive the funds regardless.
We received them this year. The mayor was incorrect. We haven't applied for several years, and we did apply this year and ended up with a $4,500 grant.
Anyone else, Lori?
well, I appreciate the chief bringing it forward, and it's not a reflection on you bringing this to the
No.
council, but my first reading of it just, it sounds like bribery. Don't charge us, and we'll give you a higher score on your, I don't like the sound of it, and for that reason, I'll vote no. I just rather we charge them if there's an issue. It sounds like there hasn't been, so I'm not sure why they're coming after this, but
That's the push throughout the state. They're trying to get this throughout the state. And they have some departments in the area that have already signed on to it. They've been signed on to it for quite a while.
Well, is the DOT gonna come next and ask us for that?
My understanding, the way I read it, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, if they reduce the risk across the board, our fee is $250. Other cities, it's much higher. If they reduce the risk across the board, that we take care of our own, the forest land that's within our domain, they have more funds available that are at less risk to provide out for grants. So it does seem to be a reasonable request, and it costs, if we ever had one, we can only charge them $250 anyhow. So if we're able to, close on, if we're able to it's a negotiation point to allow us to apply for more grants. I think that, or more points on our grants. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't work together in this situation.
the reality is there's no guarantee that we'll benefit from more grants over another county. You know, we're still going to be competing. I assume we're all competing on a pretty level playing field now.
Well-
Some have fees, some don't. I just don't think there's any guarantee,
I would
The
say
sound of
if
it.
this opens up any other department to come ask for us to waive fees, pretty sure we're losing money on the highway. That costs us how much every run we go out, probably right now?
And payroll costs of $300-400.
It is worth it.
Mary?
I tend to agree with Randy and Lori. I think that grant approval is done by, is subjective to who is looking at the grant. So entering into this type of agreement doesn't necessarily guarantee us anything, except that if there is a wildfire, we won't get paid.
When we did the Prospect Park application, and I know some of you guys were involved in that, they went through and you're scored on a whole bunch of different things, and the bottom line, whoever gets the highest number of points wins. And if this gives us one more point, it gives us one more opportunity, and the level of playing field is if everybody signs up for it except us, we're no longer level.
However, sometimes you can get the highest number of points and not win. They may give it to someone who has never received such grants before. It happens all the time with grants. You could have the most points, but if they feel another community is in more need, they can choose to waive that entire point process and give it to another community. That would be my concern. That we're saying, sure, no problem, but there's never a guarantee. It's a human judgment whether that grant is granted to the community.
But there are criteria which are spelled out in this paperwork. This is a process known as a comparative hearing, which is very common in government, which I've dealt with for many years with the federal government for radio licenses. And everybody starts out at 100%. and then you have comparative demerits. One of the 4 comparative demerits is you've not agreed to do the no-fee runs on wildland. Since we really don't do those anyway, and it would take an awful lot of runs at $250 to make up for the $4,500 that we've already gotten, I would say that the odds are in our favor. We're holding the dice. I would vote for this. It's a good thing.
Okay, any other discussion? Let's vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed say no.
No.
All right, I'll vote yes. Gosh. Jan told me that I think I've cast more tie-breaking votes than any other mayor, and I didn't see that one coming. I've got my reluctance about it as well. I expressed that at the Finance Committee, but I think in the end it's just exactly what Scott said. I agree with him. So.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, write that down too.
Oh, wait, it's your last meeting. Okay.
Okay, let's move on to we're moving on to Public Safety Committee. And we've got number 1, the request of Willow River Elementary School for temporary snow plow event placards. Randy, why don't you tell us what happened at the committee on that?
Mr. Grambo, the principal of Willow River Elementary, had requested that we take a look at awarding up to 20 permits for drop-offs and substitute teachers during the time, and there was some discussion about it, and we all decided that maybe 20 was a bit much. With some conversation with Chief Jensen, we recommended 10 to be awarded, and discussion was held. Marty, did I forget anything there?
Yeah, correct. That was for volunteer parents and
Okay. It was recommended we give them 10 to be handed out during the course of a school year.
Okay, so the motion by Randy is to approve Willow River Elementary School 10 temporary snowplow event placards for exemption to the no parking during snowplow events. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
If I may.
Yes.
I believe I voted no on this because I'd like to see the number reduced to 5, not 10. I don't think we need to give out 10.
I can report to you in a general sense that as of last week, in general, from the public at large, there had been, I believe, 15 applications for exemption at the time that I asked. And we had created a form internally. How many is the number up to now, Tom? Do you know? 50. Okay, we modified the form because we realized that our form required an affirmation that the car was registered to the address that you were asking for the exemption for, and that turned out to be unworkable. There are people who have every legal right to be driving either a company car, a parent's car, or someone else's car. That is their car, and that's where they live. So we modified the form. We knew there would be some. The ordinance is written that it's up to the discretion of Public Works. Now, these are being largely granted administratively from within when they seem like they're a slam dunk. They have no other option. Tom can see they have no other option. The approach has been to let them do it at the staff level and not bring every one of those to the committee. That's how we do it for example, fence permits, for example. However, the topic is here, and you may want to have this back on your agendas at both Public Safety and Public Works to talk about it, because this is a new program and we're going to be finding our way through it. It's probably going to be easier, since this was another thing that came up, was do these have an expiration date? What if you're living in an apartment, your lease is for only until, say, the end of December, but we just granted you a forever exemption pass to park on city streets during snowplow? That wasn't something we had really foreseen. So did we add that in yet, Tom? The exemption on the application, or the expiration date?
There is an
Oh, I see. Because the ordinance says 1 year.
Yeah, so, in some situations, it might be longer than their lease is actually, and so we've talked about whether that should actually be, the length of your lease or 1 year.
I'm sorry, but the vehicle is tied to the location so that it can't park somewhere else in the city under this.
We're getting beyond issue.
So my point was more along the lines of there's work to be done. I suspect that you're going to have this back in committees over the next month or so. So you may find that, having given out a number, it's hard to take them back again. But aside from that, I'm not saying 10 is the wrong number.
Well, excuse me, but I think Mary has a good point. And getting back to Willow River here for a minute, which is what's on the agenda, do we have any record of how many substitute teachers they employ at a time? Do we know anything from the principal about this?
I spoke to the principal and asked him, and he said on a regular basis, he felt that if he had 20, he would manage getting them out and bringing them back. At committee, we discussed the fact that 20 seemed like a lot. We were going to propose him with 10, and he would have to come back. And if he really could substantiate a need for 20, we would reapproach it. And they are only good for a year. So come next spring, they're no longer valid. So we have, again, next year to look at it and say, 10 was the wrong number, 5 was the wrong number.
Yeah.
So we're not making a forever decision here.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly don't think that was the committee's intent, too, was just a year long. And
Okay.
renew it yearly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the motion is for 10. There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
And motion passes 5-1. The next item is to consider the concept of using handicap parking bags for meters near the Phipps Center for the Arts during performance weekends. Randy?
Mr. Potter, John Potter, the general manager of the Phipps Center for the Arts, has asked us to give some consideration, and the idea that was brought up at our committee meeting was, well, why couldn't we get a different color bag, a blue bag, and put that over like we do for the no parking special request issues that you guys issue them, Marty, or does the clerk's office give those to the Phipps Center, and the maintenance would be done by the Phipps Center, taking them on and off during performances, so it would not tie up the all night or the dinner time, just specifically when the performances or activities are going on down there.
Mm-hmm.
There is little handicap parking around there. I guess there's more needed. So it's a concept, so ideas I guess we're kind of looking for from everybody else to whether you like that or not, or go a different way.
Well, I'll move that we offer them the 2 that he requested, temporary handicap cover bags.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the committee recommendation for 2 handicap cover bags. Any discussion?
I know the chief had some information. I don't know if you want to bring it up at this time.
Several years ago, we had temporary no parking bags for the food preparation place down here near in the 400 block of 2nd Street. They were made out of canvas that had a locking mechanism on it where you could put a lock in it and it wouldn't be able to take off. I contacted the same company, and they do make a blue meter bag that does have the symbol for the handicap on it. Individual single covers would be $16 a piece. If we had a double for 2 meters side by side would be $20. And if we wanted to have a silkscreen setup that said City of Hudson on there as well, there'd be an initial $40 setup charge for that on top of one-time fee. So these are pretty simple. What we'd have to do is just, if we ordered them, we'd take it right out of the parking fund. They'd have more than enough money to cover it. We would just have to buy locks to put on it. They would put the meters on, the bags on the meter, just lock it up, and then just leave it in place until the performance is over, come back out, take the locks off, and the meters go back to normal operation.
At committee, you also mentioned there is other times that these could be used.
Correct. We were just talking here in the back when Booster Days has their celebration, they often don't have enough parking. Where we could use these meter bags down in the angle parking stalls down on 1st Street, we'd be able to put 3 or 4 or 5 bags on those meters, and they'd be designated as handicap for the entire weekend, and that would allow more people to get down to the park and be much closer.
Chief, are you asking then that we change our motion from 2 bags to 4 or some other number?
Well, currently the motion was for 2 bags for the FIPS.
Right.
What I would think about doing is buying more than that, just having more in hand, so that we had more than that. And we have the money available in the parking fund.
Well, I'll amend the motion. To, how many bags do you want?
If we went with 5, I think that'd be more than enough.
Okay, 5 doubles or 5 singles or?
I would go with singles. They're much easier to take on and off.
Okay, 5 singles.
Okay, so there's an amendment. Is it okay with the, you made the?
Yeah, but I'd like to see the more official with the silk screen, the city of Hudson, that people would be more apt to follow it than just pulling a plastic bag off.
Correct. Yeah, these are made out of canvas, not out of the plastic bag, so.
And I think, sorry, he mentioned earlier they'd have City of Hudson on them.
We can have it put on there for an extra $40, one-time setup fee.
I agree with you.
If I could just add one thing, and it's minor, but I would hope that those would be available to be used during booster days or any other time that the city would want them.
Correct. We would
I
have
mean, if
them.
the FIPS wants their own, maybe they'd like to
Right.
pay for their own set, but otherwise, they're property of the city, and is that the assumption?
I think we'd run them the same as we run the no parking bags that we currently have up here at the clerk's office. Then come and check them out, put a deposit down, and have it for so much time, and then take it back in.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion is for 5 single bags with the additional cost of putting the City of Hudson on there as well as the handicap sign. Is that the motion?
Yeah.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. And the motion passes. All right, Chuck Schwartz is not going to be here tonight due to travel conditions. There is an update on projects. Maybe we can just go through it if there are any questions. Anyone have any questions on the update? Okay, then let's go on to old business, discussion of public notification options for snow plowing events. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about those. Item B, approval of the 2011 fire contracts with our participating municipalities. Catherine?
Oh, well, what we'd like you to do, I guess, is currently there is a proposal that's been put forward by Ray Knapp of the town of Troy with some modifications to the 10-year term. We have not had a chance to really review it. I haven't, and what we thought was we'd try to get and meet with him. We did look at it very quickly before the meeting, but meet with him tomorrow if possible. But just in the event that that 10-year agreement does not get negotiated with the municipalities, we're looking for approval of the current 2011 fire contracts that were in your packets with the updated numbers and just the revised language reflecting the discussions that have been taken place and setting a date of June 30th to a target date to complete the 2010 or the modifications in 2011 for 2012. So this is just, if we don't come back with a 2011 contract, 10-year term contract, this would be in place without further action of the council.
Isn't our contract we have in place already take care of that?
No, it's annual renewal, and that's the thing here is that this is essentially the backstop. So you'd be approving the backstop if nothing gets negotiated in time. Then they would still have fire protection on January 1st and 2nd and so on. There wouldn't be any lapse. So this is the backstop. You can approve this, and we'll let this go out if we can't figure out the other one. But having said that, the intention would be that we'll try to have some discussions about this over the next couple of days. The Joint Advisory Fire Board has a meeting scheduled for December 1st to talk about the item again. And then I think the new proposed and amended version will probably be back on your first meeting in December if all the parties can come to a conclusion. If it turns out we can't do this by the end of the year, then a number of options. We can use this backstop contract and continue negotiating and amend it midstream in a year, or you could amend it starting for 2012, whatever. I think there's a lot of options. Honestly, we started the process fairly late in the year to get it done. It's not impossible to get it done before the end of the year.
Has there been some pushback, or have they not?
Yeah, the pushback from some of the participating municipalities was around the idea that we were asking for a 10-year contract. From our point of view, it was because when we make a decision to buy a new fire truck and it's a $250,000, $300,000 investment, they're voting on that and then offering to pay for it in 10 annual installments, but they only have a 1-year contract, so they could basically pay for a year or two and then say, we're out of your deal. So from our standpoint, it made sense to go to 10 years. From their point of view, their feedback was, we don't get to set the annual budget. The council does. And so now we'll be in a 10-year agreement with someone where we don't any longer have control over what the annual increases might be. And that feels like a loss of control. Right now, if we didn't like what you did, we're 1 year away from saying we'll find something different to do. So that's what the new proposal is, and Chairman Knapp of the town of Troy had suggested that they had some language they've used for the part of Troy that's covered by the River Falls Rural Fire Department. But for a variety of reasons, we haven't had a chance to review that thoroughly or talk about it very much. I think it still needs some work. It wasn't ready in time for it to be here tonight, and it still isn't ready at this moment. But I don't think it's not insurmountable changes. I mean, they all intend, as of this moment in time, to maintain our long-standing relationship as being the joint fire protection of all the local municipalities, as has been. But we're trying to tweak that a little. Does that seem fair?
Yeah. This, like the mayor said, this is just in the event we can't bring something back to you in December. Your approval of this will keep it in place for the following year.
As our liaison there, you have anything to add to that?
No, this was the entire intention. If we couldn't come up with agreement, then we would go back to the old contract. Okay. The fire board is very interested in moving forward with this modified contract, and I know that they would like us to finish our review and get back to them.
Yeah. And will all of the other municipalities go along with the June 30th decision date? This contract we have before us gives them 7 months till June 30th of 2011 to make an agreement on a new contract.
Well,
I would assume if they haven't done it by then,
it's not hard and fast. It says they intend to. It's a good faith intent to.
It should be hard and fast, but it isn't. But that's another negotiated change that we haven't done. And since we're already negotiating the other, we're going with it. And that's, frankly, that's in their draft, was to, rather than have a hard and fast set day, was instead to have it up until the point that we adopt our budget, which, as you see tonight, is late in November. We think that's way too late for the date to make changes. So that has to be negotiated. The long and short of it, each of the municipalities has put into this 2011 budget the worst case financial scenario for them. For our situation, if we adopt the new form of divvying up the costs, it costs the city more. So we've put that higher cost into our budget. If it doesn't happen, my suggestion to you would be to set that money aside so that if the change happens for 2012, you don't have to go looking for more budget cuts next year. You've already set the money aside to make the change. And our partners in the town, particularly the town of Troy, stands to benefit. The village of North Hudson stands to benefit a little bit. And even though they've budgeted as if it won't come to pass this year. So nobody's counting on Santa Claus here. If it doesn't come, we've all kind of taken a worst case scenario.
I will move to approve the 2011 fire services contract.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve.
Can we say with continuing negotiation on the current contract that's on the table?
If you, sure.
Yes, I would.
Okay, is that all right with you? And so add to the motion with continuing negotiations on the new contract. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. And the motion's approved. And then now we're moving on to old business, discussion of public notification options for snow plowing events.
Lee had contacted me when the ordinance was passed. There was no specific other than getting the notification out to the public, which didn't quite happen the way it was supposed to, but it is out there now. Everybody should have gotten a postcard explaining the process. Lee had contacted me about Facebook or other options. We certainly can continue to explore that. I did talk to Mike Kruger today. There is a free service, which my understanding the police department now uses. Basically, we would notify the public. They would go online and sign up, and then we could actually use it for not only snow plow events, we could use it for water main breaks or anything like that. They would sign up to get either an email, a phone call, or a text. So I just wanted to get kind of, you're okay to go ahead and do that, and we'll get that process started. And just that we had approved the ordinance, there was no specific direction as to which method. And I had totally, setting up a Facebook isn't hard to do, but I think notification through those other methods would probably reach more citizens than Facebook. Probably.
There was just in our ordinance, or we had listed a bunch of options: Facebook, robocalling. We listed a bunch of them, but I felt we needed to do something, take one of them forward, and so people have the opportunity to get notified. I do like I know Mike had talked about this free opt-in system. I mean, that's great if we can.
It can't specify, and the school district has a different system where they can specify a school or a class or whatever. Whoever signs up for this will get every notice we sent out, whether it's something that interests them or not. But so just looking for the okay to go ahead and get that started, if that's agreeable to everybody.
OMG, I'll make that motion.
And I'll work with Mike and
Wait a
Brian
minute,
on that.
there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Oh, you're my BFF.
All right, now anything else?
Well, I just said I'll work with Brian and Mike on that to get the process started.
And the process you're talking about is?
We will get notification probably out to the newspaper and get it out to the public, informing them of that this option's available and the instructions as to how to do it.
Okay. I'll say what I said before. I don't want any system that puts the responsibility back on the city to notify people
Well, and I
that
have
we're
discussed
plowing.
that with Lee as well. That was a concern.
And I don't know
whether
if
it's
I'm
me
the only
or
one
whether
who
it's
thinks that
Tom,
way, but
if something happens that both of us assume the other one did it.
the responsibility should lie with the citizen resident to get their vehicle off the road and to say, well, you didn't send me a Facebook notification or you didn't email me, I'm not paying the fine. I don't think we want to get into that.
And the ordinance
Thank you,
currently
ordinance
says
says
that the city may, but is not required
Okay.
to provide a system of notification. So the ordinance says it is your responsibility to move your vehicle.
So even if someone signs up for email notification, they're not expecting it? I mean,
Well, the ordinance it says that
Okay.
the city is not required to, so.
okay, that's fine.
If there was one little twist to this, it would be that it might actually be nice to have a notification of when it's okay to park again. In other words, just to put out a notice, hey, the whole city is plowed. Wherever you had to move your car to, you can move back. I think that might be something as your committees, this is another item that could be talked about back in the Public Works Committee as you see how the system is working. I would like to call up Mr. Zuley, come on up here, to tell us about his experience of riding in, Tom's not allowed to drive the trucks anymore now that he's the director, so when he wants to see what's happening, he just has to ride along. And so you were telling me you were riding along in the snow plowing, and how did the new system seem to work?
In the areas that the streets were cleared, there was no vehicles on either side. When we have an opportunity to put down our main plow in the front and the wing plow, we can, pretty much do half the street in one pass. It's when we come in that there's a vehicle here and a vehicle here when you can't hardly get the front plow through there. And then sometimes you have to bring the wing up and some, just slows the whole process down. There's chance of damaging vehicles, and it's very difficult to maneuver. So the areas that were clear of vehicles, it just went so smooth. I mean, we just went down one street, turned around, come back, and we were done. The time saving was, huge. So hopefully that the more vehicles we get off the street, it's just going to save the plowing or reduce the plowing time considerably.
Tom, could you please just make note of the fact that time saved is money saved in this case? We are saving money, quite a bit of it, in fact, aren't we?
I believe so, yes.
Question, of the 50, have we granted 50 exceptions already?
I have not granted, we received approximately 50 exemption applications. I think I've approved 4. I've gone to every address and looked in the front of the resident and in the alleys and found that 90% or more that there are off-street options. It's incredible. It's just a matter of making people walk from their back garage to the back door instead of just parking in front. Just in a short time this afternoon, we had some more applications come in, and every applicant had options to get off the street.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Might be wise for you to keep a list or notebook of those addresses you've already evaluated when there's a new resident or a new tenant and they come applying at the same address. If you had that, it would save you going out again to reevaluate if the situations
Actually, Amanda has a spreadsheet upstairs, and I write on every applicant and give it to her, and she has a spreadsheet, and she has remarks and comments for that address. So,
Can I ask him something?
Yes.
Do you know off the top of your head how long it took you to plow the city this weekend, over the week? I know the ordinance wasn't quite in place yet, but I think you said that people already started moving their cars and stuff.
It was a little different because a lot of the main streets were plowed on Saturday, and then we expected to get snow in the afternoon and evening, which we really didn't get much. So I think we started plowing at 4 o'clock. We're pretty much done at 10 on Sunday, but you have to take into consideration there wasn't a lot of the main streets were already done.
Right.
Okay, we're ready to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion's approved. Under new business, we've got discussion of possible options for filling vacancy in the office of Mayor Catherine Munkitrick, City Attorney.
Really what we're discussing is procedures regarding filling vacancy in office of mayor, the options you have. And you should have received a memo in your packet that goes through those options. Basically, the vacancy will occur on November 29th. At that point, the council, has the meeting scheduled, and the two options really main options are appoint someone to fill the vacancy for the unexpired term, which is April 2012, or order a special election to be held in April 2011 and appoint someone to fill that vacancy until the special election. So if you go down the path of appoint to fill the unexpired term, you're done with respect to mayor. The other path is order a special election in April 2011. Your options there then are, do you appoint someone to fill that vacancy for that 4-month period, or do you leave that vacancy open and allow the council president to serve as council president for that interim period? If you take no action on the 29th, the other deadlines that come into play are the election deadlines for the April election. The nomination period starts on December 1st. And so and that nomination, the last date you can order a special election is December 29th. I would really advise against that. If you want to have a special election, you should really try to make that decision as soon as possible so there can be a standard nomination period for anyone wishing to run. in April. And then the person elected at that special election is elected to fill the unexpired term. Does anyone have any questions about that aspect of it?
Catherine, is the end of the nominating period January 4th or 5th?
What did I put in?
It's the first Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it's the 4th, December 1 through January 4th.
5 p.m.
Thank you.
This item is on the agenda because there was recognition that there were lots of questions about possible scenarios. Once we had noticed it on the meeting, it becomes not possible for you to talk amongst yourself without violating the open meeting law. This is a chance for you to have some discussion about process, but not make any decisions or conclusions, and to ask Catherine about the procedures.
Yeah, I think the thought was we just want to be clear on the procedures before the meeting on November 29th. So at that point, questions, I mean, we'll still answer any questions, obviously, but if you have them,
So
let's try to get them clarified now.
So the expectation on the 29th is you will making a decision on the process by which we're going to go forward.
Well, you can, you at least should do that, but it will be and is agendaed for making the appointments as well. If you can't do that, that remains to be seen. But at a minimum, I think I would recommend that you be prepared to make a decision on whether you're going to appoint for the unexpired term or have a special election in April 2011. The reason, again, is just to give whoever would like to run, if you're going to have a special election, the full nominating period.
Has anyone contacted the cable board about televising that meeting? I think it should be televised.
Yes, we already have.
Okay, good, thanks.
So those are the process in terms of appointment is really not set out by statute. In terms of, in other vacancies, there have been paper ballots. You cannot have a secret vote to fill a vacancy, but for example, you could have paper ballots in which each council member's name would be on that ballot, names for possible appointment or whatever the motion is, so that the vote is recorded, but it's on the ballot, it's not a voice vote. So that, and maybe we'll just have those available so that if that's what the council decides on the 29th, they'll be ready and available. It cannot be a secret vote. Then one of your, the possibilities is appointing an alder person. Or appointing someone who's not an alder person. But the reason it's even in the discussion is that if an alder person is appointed to fill the vacancy, that creates a vacancy in that alder person position. That's why we brought it up and wanted you to be aware of that. If it happens on the 29th, again, you have the option to appoint for the unexpired term of that alder person. That could either be 2011 or 2012, depending on who that might be. You have the same kind of decision to make, appoint for the unexpired term or have a special election in April 2011 if that vacancy occurs on the 29th. If the vacancy occurs after after December 1st, then your options are to appoint for the unexpired term, which could be 2011 or 2012, or appoint, you would no longer have the option to have the special election in April of 2011 if it's after December 1. It would either be April 2012. There is an odd provision in the statute that allows you, if the vacancy occurs before June 1st, to have it in November. That's not mandatory, it's discretionary. I don't see a whole,
Be a-
I don't see a whole lot of point in it, but I point it out because it's in the statute.
Why is that for an older person after December 1st, you can't have a
Statutory.
special
That's
election, but for a mayor, you?
No, for the vacancy, we know the vacancy for mayor is occurring before December 1st. It's the
Oh, it's
date
about
on.
the fact that we don't know the
Yeah, we
vacancy.
don't know if
I
a
get it.
vacancy will occur before December 1st for an older
Understand.
person. Otherwise, it's the same.
Can we use two examples? A person who expires on the 11th and one that expires on the 12th. 2011 or 2012. So we don't make a decision as of December, the replacement. We have to appoint someone for 2 years for the 11th?
No. You don't change the term of no, their term would naturally expire in 2011 and it wouldn't be a special election. It would be just the regular election for that older
It'd be for the
person.
seats in 2012 that would impact.
Yeah, it's only a special election if the older person who's
Let's say the
Appointed.
2012.
Correct.
So we would have to have a special election and is that what you're saying? 2012,
Well, and the vacancy occurs after December 1?
correct.
Then you appoint, basically for the unexpired term, because you can't have a special election in
Gotcha.
April 2011.
That's what I was trying to get
Their
clarified.
term expires, I
So-
mean,
The
we-
2012 seats, if the vacancy occurs December 1st or prior, then the special
Yeah,
election
right.
occurs. If it happens after December 1st, then whoever is
No.
appointed, there is no special election.
Except for mayor.
unless this November
Right, unless
thing,
you want to have one
which,
in November.
So if the vacancy occurs after December 1st for an older person whose term expires 2011, you're saying we would appoint until a special election?
no,
in
it's
the
not
spring of
called a
April?
special election. Oh.
We would appoint until April of 2012, at which time there'd be a special election.
No. If the term expires, if the older person's term expires in 2011, there is no special election, there's just the regular
But I'm
election
saying
for.
after December 1st.
Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't
Okay.
matter because their
2011
term is
seats.
That's not clear.
expiring.
Yep.
Okay.
And they would
So
be.
it's only the 2012?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's
simple.
confusing.
In the statutes, it's clear as mud, too. It's-
Yeah, it's a very poorly written statute. But I think the main, if you appoint for the unexpired term or decide to have a special election in April 2011 for the mayor's vacancy, alderperson gets a little more complicated because it depends on the term and the date of the vacancy.
Maybe our new representative should change that statute.
It is a weak
That has been
section of the
suggested.
law. That has been suggested by both
By the
the
league.
League of Municipality Attorneys and the Government Accountability Board have looked at this recently, and it is not a very well-written section of law.
So the smoothest path for us is to make some decisions on the 29th, leaving all possibilities available. I mean, if we come to agreement on the 29th, we can get this thing running smoothly. If we can't agree on something on the 29th, then it gets messy.
Well, the vacancy for the mayor occurs on the 29th,
Yeah.
that's before December 1. It gets messy with the alderperson.
There's no vacant alderperson
Yeah.
position until one of you resigns and/or accepts and takes the oath of office as mayor, in which case you've automatically resigned. If that would happen before December 1st, then you've got
For the new mayor.
special election options. If that person were chosen on the 29th and didn't take the oath of office until after the 1st, they would have, on their own, have precluded that and then left you with the choice of appointing.
So if we choose from an older person on the 29th, the wise thing also would be to have the oath done the same day.
Yeah,
We were just discussing
Yeah.
that as Nancy's out of town, so we'll have to make sure that I'm
Get
not
someone-
authorized to do it. We have Sue Garrity here. Just to make sure that, because I don't know that I'm authorized.
we'll
to do
check
that.
on,
Yep.
I mean, we must have a deputy, isn't
Let's make it a
Jan?
little messier.
To take the oath?
Yeah, to administer an oath.
I think
Well,
the
I'm
official
think-
oath is actually the written one that's written and notarized, and the other is more ceremonial.
And I think, and the written oath can be notarized, so I can do that.
But we asked that that kind of paperwork be ready and available. The other part to that is if you have in mind appointment of some other citizen, any eligible elector, and doing it on that day, and you wish to have them actually become the mayor on that day, then they should probably plan to be present and be ready to take that oath that day so that, things move along. Okay, any other questions?
May I ask a question about that, if I understand you correctly? Wouldn't it be kind of not kosher for somebody to bring forth a candidate on the 29th without alerting the public at large that we're taking applications? Shouldn't we, either do what Lee just said, or, agree to notify the public that we're going to be taking applicants, we're going to be interviewing. Now, we may not choose to appoint any of those interviewees, but we need to alert the public at large that we're going to be taking applications.
Well, the statute does not establish an appointment process. The council can decide on an appointment process, and it can be taking applications and providing notice and so forth. The council has done that in the past, but it's not required. The notice of the vacancy, there has been public notice of at least the intended or anticipated vacancy. There has been public notice of the meeting. That's part of the discussion to have if someone comes forward with a particular person to suggest for appointment. Then there can be a discussion on, well, no, I think we should do such and such if we're talking about appointing for, let's say, for example, the unexpired term. But there's no specific appointment process established under the statute.
Thank you, Catherine. I think then that in the effort to maintain absolute transparency, the council might wish to decide tonight whether or not to allow any candidate to come forward as of next Monday. And if so, and I'm okay with that, but we need to go on record tonight to alert the public that if you wish to be considered to be appointed mayor, you ought to maybe show up next Monday morning at 8 o'clock.
Go ahead.
Using your logic, which I don't disagree with you, that there should be some sort of notice. If the council were to decide to go do an appointment with someone outside of the current council, we could still do that appointment before December 29th, and Lori could act as interim mayor, and we could make it then notice for applications and have another meeting somewhere in the middle of December for that. So
Absolutely.
I think the concern would be more of it than 29th. There would be an agreement that yes, if we would take that route. Yes, we want to appoint. However, we want to appoint outside. So let's open it up for applications. Have Lori or whoever.
I totally agree.
For the mayor's vacancy, it's set. The vacancy is going to occur, presumably November 29th, before December 1. Mm-hmm. So you will have the option of having a special election or appointment. If you decide to appoint for the unexpired term, right, you may very well decide we want to have a process, and you can discuss and make a decision on the process at that point.
That was my point, that if we were going to do otherwise, we ought to notify people we're going to do otherwise.
I would think, just the notice of this meeting, it's on the agenda, the notice at the last council meeting, and the notice of the 29th meeting.
So anyone who wishes to be considered to be appointed mayor should possibly show up on Monday morning at 8 o'clock on the 29th.
That, or we could put out a notice if we decide to go that way after the 29th, and Lori would act as interim
which I
mayor.
agree with 100%.
Yeah.
But it's just that if there's any chance, if there's any chance that somebody could be appointed on the 29th, we've got to let everybody in town know that right now.
I think you just did.
The other piece that I was missing, and maybe I got it straight now, is that if we went and said we're going to appoint somebody and we chose to go to the 29th of December and make the appointment, does that preclude a spring election for mayor?
Well, you should really decide on the 29th, are we appointing for the unexpired term, right, or are we going to have a special election in April of 2011. Then the subset of that is, do we want to appoint someone to fill the position until April 2011?
Right.
Or do we leave it open for the president, council president to serve?
I see. So we could say we're going to have a spring election and we're going to choose to appoint somebody for the next 4 months.
And if council
Correct.
president serves, she doesn't lose her seat.
No, the council president retains her seat as alderperson. She presides at the meeting. She is acting mayor. She decides before any vote is taken and notifies the council whether she's going to be exercising her vote as council person or just exercising her authority as acting mayor. So that it's, on a motion by motion basis, she is allowed to decide what office she will be acting in. She can't exercise the authority of both.
I'll have to get you a hat that you turn.
Okay. Questions? Further discussion? Ready to move on? Thank you, Catherine. Communications and recommendations from the mayor. Pursuant to Municipal Code Chapter 235-36E, I'm recommending 2-hour free parking and the use of courtesy tickets in the downtown area during the holiday season. I'd like your approval of the 2-hour free parking and the use of courtesy tickets from Thanksgiving, November 25th through January 1st of next year.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Question?
Discussion.
So the courtesy ticket is just going to say Happy Holidays?
Yeah,
Or are you
that's
saying
what
if they're over 2
If
hours?
you're over 2 hours, they get a ticket, correct?
I'm just curious how this works,
What happens is when they go through the downtown area, if they come across a meter that's expired, they put a courtesy ticket on saying, welcome to Hudson, enjoy 2 free hours on the city for the holidays. They come back 2 hours later, if that ticket is still on the car hasn't moved, then they get a citation for being beyond the 2 hours.
Any other questions? This has been the practice for many years now. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. This will be my last council meeting before my resignation, and I'll continue to represent the interests of Hudson and the area in my new role in the State Assembly. It's with some regret that I leave the office. I found it challenging and enjoyable serving as mayor. And we're fortunate to have a great staff. I'd like to thank Jan Doonan in particular because she's indispensable, and all of our staff, and it's been my pleasure to work with you as the council as well. You are a very talented and thoughtful group and dedicated public servants. So in this last communication and recommendations from the mayor, I'd like to review just a few highlights of some accomplishments and some few ongoing challenges. I think we've worked hard to protect the taxpayers and keep taxes low, and with the adoption of the budget tonight, that you added a third consecutive year of doing that with lower taxes each year. And there's nothing accidental or lucky about that. That's the result of hard work and tough choices and a concerted effort to find new efficiencies through competition and innovation. And I think you should be proud of that record. And that is your record. Mary's new to the council, and before her, Pam Brokaw, but that's your record. We've worked hard to improve our police department, and we brought in stable and effective leadership in Chief Jensen. During the last few years, we've increased our patrols, we've improved our equipment, and we moved into a significantly larger and more functional facility. I think we can be happy with the improvements made in the police department. And our parks and public works departments were successfully merged, blended together at some cost savings, I think it's been a successful move, successfully implemented by them. And in particular, I'd like to note the improvements to Lakefront Park that were completed. Generally, I've had good feedback on that, and we need to continue to make Lakefront Park the jewel of Hudson. And then the library. The library's been significantly improved. With the move to our First Street building, the council showed foresight and courage in approving that purchase just 1 year ago. Seems like longer because there's a lot of water under the bridge since you made that decision, but I think you can be proud of the result. There's challenges that remain for the library. I'm confident, though, that the library board will find success as they seek alternative funding sources to supplement the municipal support. I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to serve Hudson as mayor, and it has been an honor and a privilege, so I thank you. Any communications from any alderperson?
I have one.
Okay.
I just had a few thoughts about working with you as your time as mayor, Dean. It has been a privilege and an honor to serve with you, and I believe you've done an outstanding job as mayor. Now, I'm not going to list the accomplishments, but I had 3 things that I wrote down that I thought were unique. Your willingness to listen to all sides of an issue and letting everyone have their input, I think, is outstanding, because that's not always been the way it's been in different organizations that I've been with. The other, number 2 I put down is you always keep your cool when sometimes things have become heated. And I think that's a real plus and a strength that you've demonstrated to our council. And number 3, when you're on the opposite side of an issue, you never made it a personal vendetta or an agenda. You kept it as an issue rather than a personal attack. So I really appreciated that too. I know one time Dean and I were serving on a volunteer position together, and we had a disagreement on something. And I don't know if it was you or what I said was, if we both agreed all the time, we both wouldn't need to be here. Only one of us would need to be here. So I appreciate the ability to disagree and still remain cordial. I wish you the very best in your new venture in Madison, and we'll miss you here in the city of Hudson, and good luck, Dean.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'd like to wish all the members of our community a happy Thanksgiving, safe and happy Thanksgiving.
Any other alderperson? City attorney?
Ditto on both comments.
Administrator?
On behalf of the staff, we want to thank you. You've been very fair to all of us. You've listened to all of us. You've opened your office up to whether it's me or whether it's one of the street workers or any of the office staff, and they have commented how much they appreciated that. The ability, they haven't, took a little while, but once they got comfortable, they all felt the ability to go into the office and talk to you when they needed to. So I wanted to express that and thank you for your service and for all the help you've given me.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you too. We're ready to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.